Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Bob's Live, our weekly live stream right here on the internet. And well, you can find us on Facebook and YouTube with the live stream, but we are in a bunch of other locations on social media. So I recommend checking out our Instagram account, share some beautiful flower photos, but we're also starting to go live there at least once a week, and I'm shooting for Thursdays. So it's a little bit different than Bob's Live, where this is more of a, in a studio sort of show. On Instagram, going out into the greenhouse, the garden, and other locations, and doing a live stream kind of right there on the spot. So definitely check that out. And then you can also follow us on Twitter. And now we're also on TikTok. So this morning I was actually out in the greenhouse shooting a bunch of short little videos that's going to be on TikTok, on YouTube Shorts, and then also as Facebook Reels. So you can start looking for those in the future. And speaking of being out in the greenhouse, I thought we would start things off this week by heading out to the greenhouse to see what's blooming, because right now is when we're kind of heading into the peak time for color in the greenhouse before it all ships out the door. So this morning I headed down to our field house location where we grow a lot of our 4.5-inch pots and a lot of different types of hanging baskets. So let's check that out. Hi, this morning I am down here at our field house location where we have quite a bit of stuff blooming right now. So I thought I would take you around and show you what we have blooming. Got some beautiful early Gerpers here blooming. And then further down, the rest of this bay is just getting ready to start to bloom. Someone on Instagram Live last week wanted to know if we grow our own succulents. And we actually start them from cuttings. So these are cuttings that are being rooted right now. And what we're going to do is transplant them into ready-made succulent containers. And here we have some of the succulent mix containers that are a little bit further along. So that's a quick look at what's happening down here at our field house location. Something interesting about this location is it is also one of the older locations here at Bob's. And in fact, the concrete that I'm standing on right now, somewhere around here, it's dated somewhere in the 80s. It has a date on it, but let me flip the camera around here. So here we have Rick. And over on this side we have Scott. And this past summer they replaced the ground cloth in here and added these nice concrete walkways. And if you're ever wondering how we come up with the original names for our locations, we call this location the field house because it's located in the field behind Bob's house. So yeah, we're really original with our names here at Bob's. Down next to the river, we have the River Range, and uptown we have the Uptown Greenhouse. So Yeah, so that was our field house location. And down there we grow a lot of things from cuttings. So a lot of times we grow stuff from seed, or well, like 99% of the plants that we grow, probably even a higher percentage than that, is grown from seed. Uh, but for our own finished product production, we do grow quite a bit from rooted cuttings. So this year during the peak weeks, we were getting in right around 50,000 cuttings that were all being stuck into soil by hand to grow roots on them. And then they get transplanted and grow it into pots and hanging baskets and all of those goodies. Um, of course, if you want to see how stuff gets grown from seed, um, this coming weekend we're having our spring color tour. So, our spring color tour is going to be this coming Saturday at 1 p.m. And we're going to be meeting here in Mason where the gigantic red building is. So if you're coming up like from the bridge, our market's on the left hand side of the road. You'll continue on past it, and it is the ginormous red building that's on the right hand side of the road. And that's where our tour will be. So we'll start at 1 o'clock with a presentation, some snacks, and some door prizes. And then we'll split up and head out on a tour of the greenhouse. And yeah, I walk you through the steps that we go through to grow plants from seed. Everything from producing the soil to sowing the seedlings to heading out into the greenhouse and seeing how we grow them out there. So it's a really neat opportunity to see the entire process from start to finish. So yeah, come on out and join us for the spring color tour. And Patty's asking if seats are still available. Yeah, so right now on Facebook we've got a link. Um, the last few years, because of COVID, we kind of limited the number of seats. This year, we're not doing that. So as many people as want to can show up, and we'll split up into groups as best we can. Um, and yeah, we'll just go that route. So over on our website, I do have a registration form where it just asks for your name and then how many people are you planning to have in your group. And that's just to give me a rough idea of how many chairs we need to set up and how much as far as snacks and stuff like that we need to get. So yeah, come on out. I'll see you this Saturday. And I'll be advertising it a little bit more online throughout the week. It's kind of short notice. This year has been kind of an interesting spring for me as far as scheduling stuff um, due to some family health stuff going on. But yeah, uh, planning on having it this weekend. Um, Up next, I wanted to talk a little bit about uh, something that I don't really cover a lot here at Bob's, but it is sort of loosely related to gardening, and that is lawn care. Um, we don't really carry like lawn products at our stores. Sometimes we carry grass seed and fertilizer, but it kind of varies. Uh, but I want to start talking a little bit more about lawn care because it's always something that I've kind of ignored also. Um, I'm the type person that, I'm not going to sweat over a few dandelions here and there in my yard. In fact, I like to go out and collect the dandelion blossoms and make dandelion tea. So I view them as a resource, not a weed. Um, but this spring, I just happened to be getting a new riding lawnmower, and I thought it would be a great time to talk about lawnmower maintenance and things that you should be looking at on your lawnmower to make sure that it lives a nice long life. and the lawnmower that I just replaced was 17 years old. So it had, plenty of use out of it. And I know the person that bought it from me, he's already sent me a message, and he thinks he tracked down what the issue was that was wrong with it. So hopefully it has a nice long life in retirement also. Well, let's check out some basics on lawnmower care. Today I'm out here getting ready to mow some grass, and I thought I would cover some basics on lawnmower maintenance, because this year I got a new riding mower, and my old mower, it was actually 17 years old, so it definitely had some miles on it. But there are ways that you can take care of your riding mower to make sure that you get plenty of years of use out of it. And the first thing you can do is check out the owner's manual. So what you're looking for in your owner's manual is a section on service intervals, and it'll break down like your initial servicing after 8 hours, every 25 hours of use, and then yearly or every 50 hours. So this is all stuff that you should be checking or having someone that's qualified check. So things like lubrication, I have a grease gun and I just take care of that myself. Replacing oil and filters, I do all that myself, and fuel filter and all that kind of stuff. Really all that I would take it in for is the 200-hour service, where you check and adjust the valve clearances. As far as lubrication, it has a diagram in here of all of the lubrication points. So you can look there and see where to lubricate. So what you're looking for on the mower itself is the grease fittings, like that one right there. So you take a grease gun, attach it to that point, and grease the fittings. It's really simple to do, and you can look up like how-to videos on YouTube for more information. And of course, every few times I mow, I check the oil, which with this mower being brand new, the oil level, is perfect in it. And also seasonally, I check the air filter. So with this air filter, it's just got 2 thumb screws right here. And underneath that cover, we have the air filter, which this is the first time I've opened this up, and I'm surprised because my old mower actually had a square air filter, and this one is a cylindrical one. So the other things that need to be changed out seasonally are, of course, your oil filter, which is kind of hidden on this mower. I have to remove this panel right here to get to the oil filter. And then also the fuel filter, which, personal taste, I like to go with a fuel filter that has a clear housing on the outside, so that way you can, kind of look in and see if you're catching any debris or anything like that from the tank. But yeah, I like to change my fuel filter seasonally. And of course, oil filter, you're usually good for the summer with mowing, depending on how big your yard is. And this mower, just like my old one, has a little timer here on the engine, so that way I can keep track of how many hours, which goes back to the service intervals in the book. Yeah, depending on your lawnmower, it may or may not have that. Personally, I like the John Deere's, and they have a timer on them that keeps track of engine hours. Of course, when you're mowing, you want to take your safety into account and wear hearing protection. So let's go ahead and start mowing, and then I'll show you what I do after I finish mowing.
Wait, there we go. Alright, so one of the last things that I do before I put the mower up is I give it a little bit of a cleaning. And this mower comes with this handy garden hose attachment where you can clean the mower deck. So something I do is I'll spray off the mower a little bit just to kind of give it a cleaning. You always, if you've been mowing and the mower's hot, you want to make sure you don't hit the engine or anything. Cold water, hot metal, not a good combo. But I just kind of hit the high spots and then clean the mower deck with this. So I'm gonna show you how I do that. Alright, so we got the water going. Now we just turn the deck on. There we go.
Alright, so that is the basics of lawnmower care. I mean, it is really simple to take care of a lawnmower. So just doing those basic things like greasing the grease fittings at 25-hour interval, uh, which general rule of thumb is like I grease everything at the beginning of the season, then midway through the season, so like kind of mid to late July, and then I'll change the oil and everything when I put the lawnmower up in usually late October. And also then I'll fill up the tank all the way, add a fuel stabilizer to the tank, and then I go out and run it periodically during the winter time. So I'll go out and kick the mower on, run it for a half hour or so, and I also keep a trickle charger on the battery during the winter time also. So if you want to learn more about winterizing your lawnmower, um, in the show notes for this episode over on our website, so if you go over to bobsmarket.com, you can find this episode with all of the show notes and everything. So it's got a link for the spring color tour. But then I also included a link for a blog post that I did a while back on winterizing your lawnmower. So that goes into a little bit more detail on kind of getting it ready to set throughout the winter time. So yeah, those are things that you need to look at kind of periodically on your mower. The last thing that I want to take a look at this week is the weather. So right now it is 75 and sunny here in Mason, and we are looking at a pretty sweet forecast coming up this week. So the next 3 days or 4, we're going to be in the 80s, and it looks like we're going to cool down maybe on Sunday when we get kind of the next bit of rain passing through. I know right now out in the garden, in the next few evenings, I'm going to be out doing some rototilling. I've got my row garden section where I have corn and beans. Right now, the ground has dried out enough in my area, down next to the river, where it's kind of, siltier soil. I can get in and till it up. So I've got the garden to do. And then I've also got some garden beds as far as flowers that I can till up and get ready. And before this rain on Sunday, I've got wildflower seeds that I'm going to get in the ground. So got a busy next few days as far as gardening. Because also, if you look at the low temperatures, we're looking at temperatures in the 40s. And looking at the long term forecast, fingers crossed. I mean, we're getting down Sunday night to 42. That's a little bit chilly. And then we've got Tuesday and Wednesday, some temperatures in the high 30s. But we might be nearing the end of frost season for us. Depending on who you look at, so I don't have my notebook here in front of me. Um, we always hear at Bob's, we say May 10th is the last frost date, but I know WVU, they say for our area, April 20th is the last frost date, which I know in years past we've had frosts after that. Uh, so, yeah, but we are kind of right at the end of the season. And we're at a point where if we do have a frost advisory or a freeze warning, I'm going to start posting and sending out notifications. So if you're not on our mailing list, head over to our website and under the how to section, we have a little subscribe link. So if you sign up for that list, you'll get things like, well, the show notes for Bob's Live, blog posts, recipes, and then also any weather alerts. You'll get those by email. So, yeah, I recommend heading over there and subscribing. But fingers crossed, we might have seen our last frost. Maybe. I'm not sure. I'm no Tony Cavalier, so. um, but yeah, that is our episode for this week. One last thing is kind of a side project that I'm working on that I want to launch kind of later this summer. And that is a gardening crash course. I've got a lot of friends, maybe it's because everyone in my age group's getting older. I'm sort of the elder millennial, I guess you could say. Um, but a lot of folks my age are really getting into gardening and have a lot of really basic questions that kind of surprised me because I've been a gardener for, 25 years at this point. So stuff that I kind of take for granted, um, they're asking me, and I'm like, nobody ever taught you that, or you don't know about that. Um, so what I want to do is launch a gardening crash course on our website that's going to be kind of a series of videos, and it's going to go along with an email list, so somebody can subscribe to it, and then they'll get it in little chunks. Um, but I want to cover kind of really basic gardening questions. So this is where you can help me out. If you have any gardening questions, you can email them to me, and I should have put it here on the screen somewhere. Our just general question email address here at Bob's is ask at bobsmarket.com. So if you ever have any gardening questions or anything like that, you can email that address, and it goes into a separate folder on my inbox where I can find it, and I can answer those questions. But what I'm looking for is anything that you're sort of fuzzy on as far as gardening. Like, what are USDA hardiness zones? Or what's a fertilizer? What do the three numbers on fertilizer mean? Different things like that. Uh, so, yeah, send me your questions to ask@bobsmarket.com. If anything, it might just end up here on Bob's Live. And I'm always looking for suggestions for shows. Um, if you know of a place that you think would be interesting for me to visit and maybe interview a person or something, uh, that is another way you can get in touch with me is by using that email address. And, well, I'm starting to ramble. So I'm going to wrap it up and say until next time, keep growing.